without social media, how would you get clients? If you couldn't run ads to get patients, you had to rely on the clinic down the street.
If 15, 20 years ago, whatever, there were independent therapists back then.
Sure.
And they just popped up their own shingle. They had a word of mouth. They had some following because they either worked at a hospital like Ron Miller and maybe Tony Maritato. I can't remember. No, Tony didn't. But there's some owners that work for a hospital and they got a reputation. And then they were like,
the big idea today when Dave joins, Tony is still on school chaperone duty. When Dave joins, the topic I want to talk about is scale. And I think both Tony and Dave would agree with me that the funnel has been flipped over. Forget the 10 location empire. The pendulum is swinging back to tight, boutique, and intentionally small. I was listening to someone talk yesterday about one of the reasons for maybe the difficulty in hiring physical therapists right now. And they would point to cost of education, shrinking reimbursement, student debt going high, so salary expectations are equally as high. And all those things are valid. And this person had a really great point, and I don't think they're the first person to say it. It's just a reminder. I'd heard other people say it, but it was just a reminder that I'm noticing, and again, it might be like the red Jeep theory. When you notice something, that's all you can see. But I'm noticing a lot of what this person called 1 to 1.5 person clinics, meaning, as Dave joins, meaning 1 to 1.5 person clinics, meaning these people are saying, I don't want to build a business that's going to scale. In fact, I don't need to, because what they're trying to do is build a life. So Dave, I'm setting up the first topic, which is big is the new small, small is the new big. The idea being that the death of scale, why small is the new smart in healthcare. Things get a little bit out of control when things get too big. Where is too big? We're seeing certain physical therapy organizations at the national level, stock prices are going down fast, right? At some point, some of these organizations were a lot smaller before they started merging and acquiring clinics. At some point, they were good, right? Before, so maybe some of our colleagues would just instantly start calling them a PT mill for no other reason. They're too big. They're a mill, right? But the idea here is, what I'm seeing more, and I'm trying to make sure it's not just confirmation bias, but what someone was pointing out yesterday is the rise and the popularity of 1 to 1.5 FTE employees, 1 to 1.5 full-time employee businesses, because it's easier to manage. The person wants to be a small business owner, which is different than a large business owner. They understand what they're getting into a little bit more. Some people, not everybody, but a little bit more today than they maybe did 5 or 10 years ago. And they're understanding that they want to create a business around their lifestyle and not necessarily, I want to get to 10 or 20 clinics, do it over 20 years and then sell. What are your thoughts?
So are we talking about the micro practices? So you're saying 1 to 1.5 providers and there's nothing in the middle. It's either you're that or you're the big corporate. Because I would say I strongly disagree with the micro clinic emphasis.
Okay, why?
Well, I want time freedom. I'm an entrepreneur. I spent a ton of years in the trenches treating patients, doing outpatient physical therapy, then doing mobile home visits. Right now, probably for the past 2-3 months or maybe longer, it's been several months where I'm seeing 1 patient visit per week. So 4 patient total visits per month because I have other therapists treating patients and I get to do whatever I want as a business owner because I spent a ton of time and effort to set up the processes and I'm still improving that in the whole playbook and the whole thing that, all the processes and SOPs for the business. If you are any therapist out there, if they want to be a micro practice owner as a solo practice owner, that's fine, but you're creating a job. So when you get hit by a bus, there's no asset to sell. When you go to retire, there's no asset to sell. So many owners have reached out to me over the years about partnering or buying their clinic. And I'm like, all right, yeah. So tell me about it. So is it like how many FTEs and all this and, front desk person or how many patients per day or per week and per month and all that? And it's just like, oh, no. It's like, I'm selling you my practice. Like, I'm retiring, but like, it's the practice is there, like all the treatment tables and the equipment and all that. But there's no front desk person. There's no other therapist or PTAs or anyone. And guess what happens to those clinics, Jimmy?
Nobody buys them. They just go away.
Exactly. They shut down. They literally shut down. Then you see the post on all the Facebook groups that says like, hey, selling, these old tables and these old Chattanooga units and the old UBE and all the other equipment. So it's sold for pennies on the dollar.
Yep.
And they can't even get money for their book of business, like their past patient list, the names, phone numbers, emails, all that. Like, so I would actually say the gold is in the middle. The gold is multiple therapists. And that's where therapists can really thrive, grow, expand, charge whatever they want. They can raise rates if they're out of network or out of pocket. But I actually am strongly against an individual therapist who wants to be their own boss and treat patients solo for the long term. I'm talking, if that's like their between now and when they retire, if that's their main goal, it's a horrible idea.
Yeah. I think it's a horrible idea if that's what you're looking for. I think what I was trying to point out, maybe I wasn't doing it as Tony is joining from a tour bus in DC. I want to see a picture, Tony. Email me a picture so I can put it on the screen. Email it to me. Don't text it to me. Email it to me. I need to see a monument. Lincoln. Jefferson's my favorite.
The Maritata Monument.
Jimmy did get his ears lowered. That was about a week ago, but thanks for noticing. I think I just it's early. So let me try to recommunicate this. I agree with you 100%. All I'm noticing is a lot more people are treating their PT license like a
You're
brand.
right.
They're just like, here's my Instagram account, and I don't want to call people out because I don't disagree with it.
You're right.
I think they're being more savvy. I think maybe, and we can get into psychographics, and this is all guessing, this is all speculation. I think some people of a generation who have gotten their PT degree in the last couple of years, even 5 to 10, are saying, that's not the bag I wanted to be in. I wanted to show up, be a great clinician, put money in the 401k and be able to afford it. I can't. I'm willing to trade that because that sounds horrible working in that situation for someone else. I also don't want to start running a business because I know that's not my strong suit. So I'll just be a brand. And I'm seeing them start very successful Instagram accounts, as an example, and then saying, I'm the dance PT in San Diego. And they do that full well knowing the minute they stop wanting to do that or when they want to take a vacation, their income stops. They're trying to build those. I see people also saying, well, I'll build digital assets or I'll do telehealth, and those things working, but not as well as like the financial porn bros going, it's passive income, bro. It's passive income. I'm like, I think it's a great idea in theory. I had so many people years ago being like, teach courses and yada, yada. And I don't disagree. I think if you're good at it, I have a lot of knowledge. I sat down to start teaching courses in podcasting a dozen times and I hated it. So I was like, why am I doing this? Because people in my DMs are telling me that they would pay me to teach them how to podcast. And I was like, well, then pay me and I'll teach you how to podcast. I don't like recording. Look, we're doing this stupid thing live, right? So I think the underlying idea here is as long as you understand what you're actually getting into, I think that's good, right? Understand that this might not be most probably the 1 to 1.5 FTE business is not going to necessarily be valuable 5, 10, 20 years from now. It's not. I think most of them know that, and they're just okay with it. I was looking at it from a perspective when people say, where are all the PTs? So many people leaving the profession. The student debt, the shrinking reimbursement. Not disagreeing with you. I think one of the things in there is also people looking at those things. My debt's high, reimbursement's low. The salary from one of these companies isn't gonna light me up. Great, I'll take less money or I'll take more risk and I'll just do this Instagram brand clinic type thing.
Well, I don't think they're taking much risk by doing that, by the way. Maybe a little hard effort here and there with Instagram brands. But we joked about it before, therapists that have 5, 10, 20,000 followers reaching out to me for a job. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yes. I mean, also like it's It's the highlight reel mentality. Like how many followers you has does not equate income. It doesn't. I know lots of people who are like, well, I grew my Instagram account and they'll come to me too. Like those people are coming to you for jobs. They're coming to me being like, how do you make money with an Instagram account? Like, I don't know. I run a podcast. I happen to also be on Instagram. To me, that's like tertiary. People are like, I don't understand. You're saying you have this many downloads. I'm like, I will open up my dashboard right now and show you how many downloads I have in the podcast. That also doesn't matter. So let's shift this. I didn't think this was going to go this direction.
Real quick, Tony did DM us on Facebook Messenger. He didn't email it.
That's fine. He understood the assignment as long as I could get on the computer. See,
he sent it extremely fast as soon as you said it. Right. He is absolutely watching live.
Yeah. All right. I'll download those while you're talking. Well, did you want to make a point, or Tony, was your point? Tony's point.
That was it.
Okay. What I was getting into was watch this, because it's the same in Instagram as it is on Twitter, as it is on Facebook, as it is in podcasting, as it almost is on YouTube. Almost. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
If you have a wildly successful, and some of these social platforms will monetize, like they will pay you what's called the CPM, which stands for cost per milli. I don't know why it's cost per milli. It's cost per thousand. It should be CPK, but don't get me started on Latin. They will give you a rate. They decide the rate. The platform decides the rate. YouTube decides the rate based on your niche. And they will say, for every 1,000 views you get, we'll give you something. It's crazy low. Like, I understand people are monetized. If you are saying I'm going to get to 1 million, 10 million followers and monetize, you can do that. It's less than you think. It's a lot less than you think. So this is where I need people to shift what their product actually is. Here's what I mean. If someone says, I have 100,000 followers on Instagram, Instagram is my product. You're wrong. Your audience is your product. Your audience is your product. So, sorry, Tony, 1,000 doesn't start with K. Kilo starts with K. Latin. Everything should be Latin.
No, you meant 1,000. You meant K. Like if you say 10K, it's 10,000. I know what you meant.
Kilo.
Yeah.
Thank you. So your audience is your product. So I don't charge. Dave, have you ever listened to PT Pintcast before? Have you downloaded it and listened to it?
Of course.
Have you ever paid Apple or Jimmy to listen to any episode?
No,
you have not. Because I understand you're my product. Now I then turn to Brooks Institute of Higher Learning and I say, you have residency and fellowship programs in PT and you need students. And they go, yes. And I go, are you in the business of knowing how to go out and get those students to pay attention to you, to maybe consider giving you lots of money to then do a residency?
And they said no.
And then they say no. And I say, well, what do you do now? And they're like, we go to CSM, we put up a table. Does it work? Sorta. And I go, cool. I release 5 episodes a week. I'm in people's ears, 45 minutes a pop. We get between 20 and 60,000 downloads a month, I think, right about now. So I'm like, do the math on that, how much attention we have earned. And now a simple podcast can be more time spent in relationship than your gigantic booth at CSM. Even if you went to CSM every day of the year, that doesn't mean those people are actually paying attention to your booth in the back corner of the expo hall. So this is what I try to explain to people, that your audience is your product. How you get them is a podcast or funny little dance videos or whatever, but then converting your dance video followers who are there for the giggles into a sale is a monumental chasm. It is a large, large leap. I do not trust this person for this. I understand that getting 10,000 Instagram followers is great, but if you're only treating in San Diego and you have followers all across the world, that's a big chasm to give you time. And Tony might say telehealth. And we would say, yeah, but I don't know how far that's going to go.
So what was the impetus about the whole microclinic talk this morning? You saw, or you're seeing more posts on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Like where did this come from?
And I'm reading this.
Yeah.
So this is a book called Unscaled.
Okay.
And it's written years ago.
I didn't read that book either, but I think the solo practice is like too unscaled. Like that book probably says do things like I've done, right? With my practice.
Yeah.
Like when it's last year, it was like October 29th or something. One of my therapists had 2 patients with a birthday on the same day. He was seeing one of the patients on their birthday, and he was seeing the other person like a day or two after her birthday. And I did the unscaled thing of we talked about it, and I said, we don't have a process in place. We don't have anything automated. We don't have anything where we get an email automatically internally, like, hey, it's Jimmy McKay's birthday. Let's send him chocolates or a cake or flowers or whatever. So I told my therapist, bring the male client, this chocolate cake, and then for the woman, a bouquet of flowers. I think that is in terms of unscaled things in physical therapy practice and business, maybe more of that focus. But I truly think that the individual solo therapist, you can do things that are unscaled, of course. That's like everything you're doing is like unscaled, basically, unless you're doing things like creating a playbook, recruiting, hiring, all that. So anyway.
Well, so the one step this book is saying is you can purchase or create low to no cost systems that automate this as a solopreneur. Where you needed to, it uses the Walmart example, like you had to have physical square footage in a town. You had to have inventory. You had to have people stocking and moving that inventory and selling that inventory. When you were closed, you made no money back when Walmart first started, before you could buy something at 3:00 in the morning and have it shipped to you. I'm not advocating, just to be clear, I'm not advocating for any of these models. What I think people are doing now, or I think the rise of these solopreneurs is they're saying, okay, I can 100%, it's a scale, right? It's a spectrum. I could 100% go and work for a large organization, and there's advantages to that. There's stability most of the time, not a whole lot of mobility, because what do you do after you're a clinician? You become a clinic director, then you become a regional director, and then maybe you go into a side thing like clinical director, or you oversee a particular vertical like vestibular care or neuro or ortho for a big organization. In the middle, if you're the owner, it's a lot more risk, but good reward if you're going to run something that you own yourself. As a clinician for that, is there a difference between that? Dave, if someone owns 3 clinics, if I own 3 clinics and my employees work for me versus working for ATI, there's not really a lot of difference there, is there?
For who? For the employees?
The employee, it's still 40 in, 40 out, right?
Well, you just spoke with Ben Fung recently. I know he's like pretty tight around employers and offerings and all that.
Yeah.
I think things can vary. I think that the smaller practice that has, 3 or 5 or whatever locations has more of an onus to keep the therapist happy. And this is from the business owners and the practice owners that we've spoken with, that we've tried to partner with or acquire or whatever over the past couple of years, is the ones that have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 locations. There's more of an intimate team. Of course, there's a little bit of like, it is a job and all that, and it's not necessarily a family. It's more about like, hey, we're like a sports team. Like we want to operate, we want to perform at our best, but this isn't family where like, you can't fire your uncle, but I can fire my therapist if they step out of line, or
right.
if they're not documenting, or if they're coming in late or whatever. Like I can, write them up. I can try to improve, sit them down, try to have an approach or some type of game plan to like help them improve whatever they're deficient in, whether it's coding or documentation, timely documentation, whatever it is. I think that the smaller, like 2 to 5, 2 to 10 location practices have a tight knit offering. There's a lot of good morale and culture, typically, at least on the East Coast. I'll say from upstate New York to Florida, like any of the practices that are, 2 to 10 locations that we've spoken with, that's what we've seen. I can't really, obviously we don't speak to the big corporates and the quote unquote mills out there. I would bet though that, and maybe because I'm also in that realm of like kind of in that practice owner world, I would say that it is on average better to have a staff physical therapist job at the 1 to 10 location private practice clinics as opposed to the ATI. Well, I don't know if you want to call them out, but the big corporates, the big mills. But of course I'm biased. There might be other folks that say like, oh, I agree with Jimmy, and it's 40 in, 40 out, and I'm a staff physical therapist at either place, and they, treat whatever they want to treat, and they get in, they get out, they do their notes, and that's it. I would say I've seen behind the door or behind the kimono of a lot of these practices, and what the practice owners do in terms of taking them out. Like you never see, and maybe it happens, but you never see with these large corporates, you never see the CEO or the regional director taking out the therapist for axe throwing or, Christmas dinners. It might happen.
At Fox, it was mandatory. It wasn't mandatory, but there was a budget for this.
So Fox is massive. They're like in 30 something states. Tell me what, and so Fox maybe has scaled the unscalable by doing that. So go ahead.
So I'll only speak because I have personal experience with this.
Yeah.
That they put their clinicians like before the patients, which sounds insane, but we've talked about this before, why that's actually a better idea. Take care of your clinicians. And they do. I don't know what the average tenure is for a Fox therapist, but it was pretty good. And I think they did it because they were remote based. Like you're a clinician, you have to. So what they did was they put a real emphasis. And I think more organizations are doing this. They put a real emphasis on who they promoted to leadership. It wasn't who was around the longest. It was who can do this. Who's the seventh guy on an NBA team? It's the glue guy. Is he good? It's pretty good. Why is he there? Everybody loves him. He keeps everybody light. When we lost 4 in a row, he, makes a fart joke and everybody laughs and everybody, can start hitting threes again. So they did it. And I can only speak from experience. I can't speak to what, and I know we keep saying ATI. I think we keep saying ATI because they're the biggest, right? Or Athletico, any of those.
Their bruise is just easy to punch on them. They're just a punching bag.
The funny thing is, well, that's a different topic. I'll get into the weeds in a minute. So yeah, Fox did make it mandatory. They did say, because this was part of my job when I was there, Tim Fox said, I want to be able to shake every person's hand once a year. And that dude got on a plane and flew around the country and they threw like Christmas parties, but like all year. Like there's no way he could just visit everybody in December. Just couldn't do it.
Got it. Yeah.
He'd be doing 4 or 5 or 6 of those a month. And it was like, he'd come in, they'd rent out a room at at a hotel, like a nice ballroom. They'd throw orange all over the place and they'd throw a party. But that wasn't the only time those clinicians in that area would see each other. They did have the axe throwings, the journal clubs, but they realized they did sit there and they go, well, why would someone want to work for us? Okay, let's diagnose the DNA of what people like about, because they were small, like any big organization. They were small. They were like, we're Jersey and Pennsylvania. But what if we hit California? To their credit, they said, I think Tim said, I'm trying to get the quote right. Don't unquote me if Tim ever gets hold of this. But he said something. He's like, if someone, the way I'll measure failure, if someone says, who's worked here for 10 or 15 years and leaves, and someone says, why'd you leave? It just doesn't feel the same anymore. He's like, that would be the failure. Because that's how you keep good people around.
Yeah.
What brought the good people in? If you're just recruiting to fill a spot, I get it. Short-term benefit. I need someone to treat patients. They said no a lot to people with licenses who could fill a role because they were like, it's going to cost us more and let's just keep looking for a better fit. They hired me with no job. They were like, we don't understand what Jimmy's going to do on day 1, but by day 50, we'll have a better idea. So they hired on culture. I think, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe smaller organizations can do that better because one bad hire at a 10 clinician clinic, that's 10% of a bad, you know what I mean? Like 10, now you have one bad apple among 10, whereas 100 bad apples among 30,000. That doesn't do any, that's not a problem. So
I love this because so Fox is a great example of they've gone, regional, and then they've gone, like the whole East Coast. And now I think they're starting to go like more Midwest and Southwest, right? I know I've spoken with some owners that have reached out about like them looking to acquire like kind of like in Georgia and some of like the southern states.
They just acquired somebody. Or a couple.
There you go. Oh, and by the way, that's how they're expanding. Like they started like organically in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, the town next to where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And they've grown dramatically. So much kudos and applause to Tim and the team. And that's why that's probably one of the main reasons if you had some, business coach come in and, give an assessment or whatever, some third party assessment is doing. Wow. It's like most of the country.
It's not smart.
Wow.
But so the question is, so when I was there, I don't think any of these states here, I think as far west as we were like Illinois. I know we were in Wisconsin. But the idea was when they were just here, how do you stay the same? Like when you're Fritos or Dr. Pepper and now you're or Sam Adams and you want a brewery on the West Coast, how does the cherry wheat hit the same in the new brewery? It's like, well, out West, we do this. So did you ever hear the story about the guy, the New Yorker who moved to Florida and opened a pizzeria and he bought a ship, like a cargo ship, and he went to New York and he filled the cargo ship. He just went up to a fire hydrant on the docks of New York and
the water, baby,
up with water. And he'd been doing it for years and he's bragging about it. He's like, it's free water. It's like, first of all, we pay for that water. That comes from where I am. That comes from upstate New York. That ain't New York City water. It comes from somewhere. But he was doing this for years until someone was like, that's an environmental. You can't just take water. But anyway, the point was, how do you actually import the ingredients that make the thing that people want? You have to go further upstream. This conversation started in terms of scale, but I think really I think there's more people able and wanting to just do things on a smaller scale, and they're able to do it now. Where I don't think before social media.
Why were they unable to do it before? Why were they able to do it 5, 10, 15 years ago?
Without social media, how would you get clients? If you couldn't run ads to get patients, you had to rely on the clinic down the street. If
15, 20 years ago, whatever, there were independent therapists back then.
Sure.
And they just popped up their own shingle. They had a word of mouth. They had some following because they either worked at a hospital like Ron Miller and maybe Tony Maritato. I can't remember. No, Tony didn't. But there's some owners that work for a hospital and they got a reputation. And then they were like, I want to make more money, or I want some senior leadership, whatever. And the hospital or the mill or whatever we're going to call it, the corporate, whatever, is like, no, like you're capped out. That's it. And then they were like, all right, well, screw you. I'm out. I'm going to take myself. I'm going to go open up a shingle, open up a private practice nearby. I don't understand how it's different now than, you're right. There was no social media. You couldn't have an Instagram account. There was no YouTube. There was no videos. There was no digital footprint. But back then, the in-person word of mouth and the in-person footprint was the main thing. That was like, of course, there was no, I was about to say Yelp. There was the Yellow Pages. Anyone watching this is probably no one remembers the Yellow Pages.
The Yellow Pages they were passive. Right. I can now be in front of you. And I'm not saying like people didn't go get referrals. That was a way. But if I want to have a lifestyle, there's just more ways to be able to support that. I want to give this much effort to get this many patients. Because if you were doing that 15, 20 years ago, I had to just be the PT for this one doctor. And the minute that doctor stopped referring to me, I was dead.
Correct. So I interviewed a while ago, maybe last year, Ben, oh my God, from Star Physical Therapy in New York City. They sold to Motion PT, but they had, and they still have, the biggest square footage practice in Manhattan, in New York City. Like the biggest practice that's not affiliated with any Rusk or NYU or whatever. So they left the hospital. Ben Gelfand, I remember Ben Gelfand and Mike Fox, they left the hospital jobs that they had, and they were so good. They had such a good reputation, such good word of mouth from all the hospital-based physicians. They went out on their own. They told all the surgeons and all the physicians, hey, we love you guys, but we're going out on our own. We're going to, make a go of it. And they got, this was 20, 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, way before the internet. And they had all the word of mouth from the physicians. So the masses of patients seeing all these Mount Sinai, HSS, NYU, whatever physicians refer to them. And that's how they built their practice. And it's public knowledge that then he made like $7 million, selling his practice. So it absolutely happened with the word of mouth, like the patient to physician marketing and all that before.
How long did they practice before they did that jump?
I think it was maybe a good 5 or 10 years before. So they worked somewhere for 5 or 10 years, probably.
Yeah,
most likely.
That's a lot. Sam chiming in saying he's talking about Fox, I believe. They got the culture down, then scaled, not scaled, then culture. You can't do it the second way. The second way, I love this example because this comes up a lot. I baked a birthday cake for a friend. At the last minute, I realized I didn't put any sugar in the mix. So I just threw 5 times as much sugar on top and it'll taste fine. Taste fine. You have to bake it inside first. You cannot do it the other way. It does not taste. It's not the same thing. People will eat that cake and be like, "Well, it called for 3 cups of sugar. I did 15. It should be sweeter."
The icing was a sugar bomb, and then inside was bland.
It doesn't work, and people will recognize it. Be like, "I don't know what I don't like about it, but it sucks. I don't know what you did here, but it sucks." All right,
hey, real quick with Sam Kellicate. So he's a physical therapist in. Sam, I can't remember if you left Philly and I think you moved to South Jersey, but he's from, we played baseball together growing up. We went to the same Hit Doctor indoor training facility. And then like years later, he becomes a physical therapist. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. We talk all the time, and I'm going to have him on my show. And I also want him in the coming weeks to come on here live. He agreed to come on here live with you and Tony as a sidebar right now, because he has done some digital programs where he's charging patients and clients like multiple thousands of dollars. It's usually around like headaches and migraines, I believe.
Very niche.
Very niche. He gets great referrals from neurologists and other folks that specialize in headaches and migraines. And I always come on here and I poke Tony and I bash the whole digital stuff and the virtual care and all that. And then Sam, sends me a DM on Instagram or a text message or whatever. What was he say? Clinic in Philly, live in New Jersey. So he's back in South Jersey. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. So, in the coming weeks, we're going to have him back on, all 4 of us. Tony will be able to have one under his belt in terms of another, therapist doing virtual coaching and, virtual care, whatever you want to call it. But I can't wait to have him on and share what he's doing.
Where in the world is Tony Meritato? I don't know.
Oh, but that I thought, I was like, what is this? Like, was it Italy? Is this
Tony, have you been elected Pope? Have we seen white smoke? Have we gotten Tony? If you're not watching,
wait. I thought it was black smoke. It's white smoke?
Black is no good, right? Is that what they don't have? I don't know. I haven't watched the Tom Hanks movie, Da Vinci Code in a while,
or Conclave.
He's not at the Vatican. He is at.
He's not at the Vatican.
That must be a Smithsonian. It's art. He's
the Meritato. No, that's the Washington Monument.
That's Washington. Yep.
Now today being renamed the Meritato Monument.
Meritato Monument. It looks very good. All right. So we got 10 minutes because I gotta go play the golf tournament today.
Oh, lucky you.
That's why I'm wearing my golf shirt. I don't do polos very often, but I do sometimes. So here's something we want to talk about. So I have an intro for Steal This segment. It took me 11 or 12 minutes to make this intro, so I'm going to play it. That's it. Steal this strategy. So I think the strategy goes along with the big topic today, which is opposites. I think 5-10 years ago when COVID hit, we were forced to go digital and virtual. I think we've hit peak Zoom. In fact, yesterday, they retired Skype. Skype was a verb.
Whoa.
It was dead. It's no longer. Zoom is still around.
Who owned that? Microsoft?
Microsoft, yeah. They sunset because now they have Teams. So of course they're not going to keep Skype around. But yeah, we just sunset, and half the audience just went, "The hell is a Skype?" Nobody wants another 8-hour virtual summit with bad slides. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to come to your webinar, which we all know is a thinly veiled sales pitch to buy your coaching or to buy your product. So the question is, what's winning now, or what's going to be winning 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now? I think it is curated real-life micro events that actually in the room create trust, buzz, loyalty fast. Listen, in the 60s, there were these pants, and they were called bell bottoms, and everybody wore them until everybody wore them, and then they weren't cool anymore, and you couldn't wear them until a couple of years ago. Bell bottoms were back in, and they were everywhere until they were everywhere, and then we're back in. The world's a pendulum. I need you to understand that. So I'm looking at this and saying, Zoom fatigue is real. I don't even think you need to, that's not a debate. Like webinar fatigue, less engagement. Everybody wants a connection that feels real. This is why UGC, user generated content, is being shared more. It might eventually go out, but right now it's the thing. We're not looking for a Marvel or Avengers level of quality video all the time. Sometimes when it's appropriate. So what I'm saying is, how could you use this in your business? I'm saying instead of trying to get 100 people on your webinar for your clinic or your business or your podcast or anything you're trying to sell, think 15 to 30 people. The right people, the right psychographic and demographic for who you want to talk to. So that requires you thinking, not just get as many people as you want in a room and hope one of those things hits, to have higher value conversations. It doesn't mean you need to be selling something that's valued at $30,000. These are higher value on your part and their part conversations. More dinner party, less trade show. Tony, I kicked that idea to you yesterday, and I still owe you video clips from when you came here. I just remembered that we shot that thing.
Yeah.
In my couch.
Beautiful living room. It was great.
I was trying. The problem was we hit record and we talked for like an hour and a half. And then I tried to upload 90-minute long video clips, and my editor kept saying, I'm not getting them. And I'm like, so I'm going to hand deliver those. So I will get those. They're the lost sessions.
That was, did Kanye have some of those? The lost mixtape?
The lost sessions.
Or Jay-Z or Dave Chappelle or something.
So back to the idea, how could you use this? So if you're like, yeah, man, I get it. I agree. So this is what I like to notice. Like, what are the big brands doing? And how do you steal this strategy? That's the point of this whole segment, which is if we know that Zoom fatigue is real, how do you play with it? Even if you weren't doing webinars, it doesn't mean stop doing webinars. It's like, notice what the world is tired of. Give them the opposite. If the world is tired of bell bottoms, give them skinny jeans, right? Go to skinny jeans first. So my idea for Dave, and then we can expound upon this, was, hey, who are you looking to talk to? You're in New York. I'm just up the street from New York. Who are you looking to talk to? Who are your people? Clinicians, practice owners?
No, practice owners. So I know we mentioned, can we mention a few names? I'll mention a few names that I want to meet in the city, and I think you could maybe help me with it.
Yeah.
So Dan Rutenberg, CEO of Spear, they have, I don't even know, close to 50 locations. I think he started with one. Obviously, he was like the same thing, hospital-based job, I believe, and then went out on his own. Yeah. So Dan Rutenberg is one. And really, I love to meet practice owners that have, most of the practice owners that have a solo location, I pretty much know them all. So the ones that have like 2 to 5 or 5 to 10-ish, like the ones that I don't know, I would love to meet them. Like Paul Zion that owns Zion Physical Therapy. I think they have like 5 locations, like 4 in the city or New York area, 1 in Connecticut. There's owners like that like I would love to meet, break some bread with. And then at the same time, like if we do it together and maybe it's a fellas collab, right, and you get in front of them at the same time, and we do it in a way that's very authentic. We can, right, you pitch, we maybe do like a little chat, little interview, we record it, whatever. We can kind of talk about the same stuff here. Like, reimbursement issues and staffing and hiring, and like we all have the same challenges.
Who's doing it better? Well, you know what I mean? Like, hey, how are you solving this? So we're going through this paradigm. You just described your who and their what, that yellow part of that Venn diagram. What are their problems? What are their whatever? And then their next question is like, well, what do you bring to the table? It's like, well, we have an audience, number one, so we can record some of this stuff. If you want exposure to other PTs, great. Even if you don't, what we're doing is we're saying we're doing the work of getting, we can't take 100 people to dinner in New York City. You can take 100 people to dinner for the same budget in Iowa, but you cannot take 100 people to dinner. You can take 2 people to dinner in New York City for the same budget. We should go to Iowa. We would slay in Iowa. We always make fun of Iowa. We should do a show in Iowa to say thank you. But the question here is in the middle of that Venn diagram is like, why is someone like Dan Rutenberg or Dutch Rojas or practice owners, like we're just naming people, but like it's the person we don't know yet. That's who we want to meet too. That fits that. Let's come together. Even if you're not going to necessarily, and I'm using air quotes here, buy what we're selling. The funny part is success usually comes, the road is people. You network. This is why you're networking. The idea isn't network to have a little number under your picture on LinkedIn that's high. Look how many followers that person has. No, you're doing it wrong. I'd rather have 500 really good tight connections, that people that I get value from and give value to, than 5,000 people that sort of know who I am. So that's the idea, which is, could we do a dinner in New York? We should do it before the summer because no one wants to be, everybody gets out of the city in the summer. No one
right. True.
The west side of Manhattan. Could we do it around? And then my question is, it would be fun to do like a video sesh that people walk away. Listen, you got some great content, video clips. They're yours. Keep them, whatever. But then there's that elbow rub. Who are you sitting next to at dinner? Who are we meeting? And that person you meet in 2025, in 2028, you're like, you know what? That person, we could, now that person is doing this thing, we could connect. And it's wild. So I want to try that. I think it's a good idea. I stole this idea. It's called steal this strategy. I'm stealing this idea from someone else. Picasso said, good artists borrow, great artists steal. So that is my suggestion. Small, curated for clinic owners. It could be, I want to take 10 parents in my area out for dinner, parents of baseball players. I want to understand what travel ball is really like. Why don't you tell me? What are the problems you're seeing with it? If you want to treat baseball players, it seems like if there's no conversion at dinner, there might not be, but there could be a whole lot of conversion down the line. So that is
down the line. Slow play.
The slow play. All right. I got to go play golf poorly. So parting shots. What does Dave have for parting shots?
I don't want to break any rules here. I have this funny post from Uncaged Clinician. As my parting shot, can I read this?
Yeah.
And foreshadow that we will break this down and respond to it on a future episode?
Yes. Do you want me to show the image? Is this the image that we were sharing or no?
The one about the cameras in the clinic?
I'll show it real quick. Is it that?
No,
Okay.
It's not. No.
Okay. No, then I don't know what image you're talking about. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I didn't send it. All right. So Uncaged Clinician Facebook group. This is a post that is a little interesting, and I think we could break it down. So here's the post. I worked at a private practice that had about 4 cameras in the open gym treatment area. I was wondering if they need to inform patients they have cameras or even the staff members. I asked because one of the owners was texting me before I was ready to leave. I ignored it as I needed to be somewhere and left the clinic after my shift. The next day, they basically used the video to tell me they saw me sitting, talking to the front desk person and looking on my phone. I told them, the owners of the practice, I told them I didn't see their text at the time, which I only saw the notification of the text, just wondering if this is legal. Now, first of all, it is legal to have, in most states, I think, to have cameras in the open gym area. And maybe they require a certain sign, or it's in the open area. We're not talking about the private treatment rooms, which I think is not legal, or you need like written or express consideration or whatever. But that's the post. We don't have time. You got to run, but that's something for all of us to break down.
It made me think, when there's like a hockey game or an NFL game and there's like a call, and then they just like automatically they're like, here's the play, and they bring in some retired referee, and they're like, what do you? And they're like, before the call is made,
exactly.
We need a lawyer on speed dial. And be like, okay, hey, we're talking, what's the deal? And they're gonna be like, all right, well, what state is it? I need to see where the camera. Like, we need like real. So I'll just preface this by saying, I'll hold my take, but I know you.
I want to just go right into it. We'll do it, Tony.
All right. Parting shot is pick your hard, and it could be, listen, I want to go work for a big clinic. I know I'm going into that with less flexibility, but more stability. Or I want to have a lot of flexibility with no stability. This is hips and shoulders. I did hips and shoulders. This is a shoulder. This is a hip. I know the difference. I promise. But understand what it is before you get into it, because if you get into it and you're like, this isn't what I thought, you didn't ask. These things are very obvious and very transparent. If you're going to work for a big organization, there's some flexibility in terms of growth, and a lot of stability. So you're sacrificing one for another, and there's a happy medium, and which one is good depends on you. Your great might be my awful, and vice versa. So understand, pick your hard. All this stuff's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot easier to stomach and get out of bed and do when you like that particular hard.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.